I'll be looking at the possibility of Valleyfair getting a new roller coaster in 2025 or an upcoming year. Since Cedar Fair decided to start adding additions to their smaller parks, it's probable to keep an eye on Valleyfair. This park hasn't received a new roller coaster since Renegade in 2007, nearly 17 years ago today. And with Six Flags merging with Cedar Fair, this opens a whole new realm of possibilities for this park. I'll be looking at potential new roller coasters we can see at Valleyfair in the near future. I'll start the video off by being realistic and progress into rides most coaster enthusiasts would want to see the park at. Well, to start it off, realistically, the park probably wouldn't add an RMC hybrid or topper track roller coaster, only because they already have a family wooden roller coaster, a GCI, and an iconic Aero hybrid machine in the back of the park. But we'll come back to RMC. Something we could without a doubt expect is a B&M roller coaster. They're dependable and worth the investments. Plus, they fill many gaps in roller coaster lineups. Ever since Dorney Park added a new B&M dive coaster, this makes me think Valleyfair is on deck for a similar addition. And I do think a B&M dive machine would be perfect for the lineup, as it offers inversions and a vertical drop. These rides are straight up capacity machines and they draw up so many guests, so it's a perfect recipe for a new coaster in the lineup. Besides Corkscrew, the park doesn't have any inversions, and that ride is pretty dated, so not many guests will wait for that attraction. I can almost guarantee that if Valleyfair got a new roller coaster, it would be a B&M dive. But also likely is a B&M invert. We see these at a lot of Cedar Fair and Six Flags parks. But surprisingly, this park is absent of those intensity machines. So this might finally be our chance, especially with these two chains teaming up and adding a lot more roller coasters. A B&M invert has been quite a popular rumor for Valleyfair's next roller coaster. However, I think this is a probability less likely compared to a B&M dive. Another candidate is a Gerstlauer, something like Hang Time at Knott's Berry Farm. I think it's awesome to see more Gerstlauer roller coasters in the US. Likewise, offering inversions, this fills some gaps. A Beyond vertical drop would definitely draw in the crowds, and I think this could be a pretty likely option, even if it may be slightly exaggerated and improbable. Although they are low capacity, they attract many guests. Seeing those Gerstlauer drops are attractive to guests on the midways, so we can expect a Gerstlauer to constantly pull large lines. This may seem unlikely, but I think it could prove to be worth the park's investment. Also, a launch coaster would be somewhat ambitious, but I do think it's plausible. Some may argue that Steel Venom fills that much needed gap, and I thought the same for Six Flags Great America. When Max Force was announced, I was surprised because the park already had a launch coaster. But when I finally rode it, I realized the impact an intense launch can have on a park. It constantly gets long lines, and people label it as one of the best, if not the best ride in the park. And that's exactly what Valleyfair needs, a ride to get people through the gates and selling tickets. I know it's not the most dependable ride, and there may be a lot of downtime initially, but the park may view the many benefits instead. So, an SNS air launch would be perfect. Plus, it has inversions too, which is much needed in the park's lineup. I know it isn't practical, but I think it would be a great investment for Valleyfair that would bring in sufficient revenue. While Renegade would still be the best ride in the park, it would be a great complement and offer a great 1-2 punch that would have people traveling to experience. And this applies to any launch coaster by any manufacturer. Cedar Fair has been known to work with Zamperla and Mock rides lately, but I think it just would be cool to see them gamble with an SNS air launch roller coaster. Moving on to the more unlikely additions that I would love to see. Starting that list is an RMC. At the beginning of the video, I said that an RMC hybrid would be unlikely at Valleyfair, but another one of their models is the RMC Raptor. We've seen more of these get constructed, and they're fairly cheap additions for most parks. These are obviously amazing for parks, They offer excellent intense elements, yet fitting a lot into a small plot of land. It's a recipe for a new coaster at small parks, so it's not impossible to see one show up at Valleyfair in the near future. However, management may not be 100% on board with it, as RMC Raptors appeal to a select audience and are low capacity rides. It's a ride though that I would love to see pop up at Valleyfair or other parks in the near future. Also, although some may be doubtful, a Vekoma would be an exceptional new roller coaster at Valleyfair. Vekoma has made a comeback in the coaster industry, and we've started seeing these rides pop up at theme parks in America. Ideally, this would be my optimal pick for Valleyfair. They're smooth, fun family rides, but still thrilling enough to satisfy all audiences across the park. Vekomas may come at a high price tag, but they offer quality rides and no one would complain about receiving one of these at a park. Let's hope more amusement parks consider working with Vekoma in the near future. Now let's discuss some unlikely rides. These may seem off the table, but if the park had an unlimited budget and no space limits, they would be great to ride every time when visiting Valleyfair. My first selection would be a B&M wing or flyer. Cedar Fair has rumored to add a new wing coaster at some of their parks. Gatekeeper is a great example of a well-executed wing coaster. It gives Cedar Fair that beautiful and iconic ride at the front gate to greet guests. Valleyfair could definitely get something similar, possibly more in the back of the park, but you can't go wrong with them. And a flyer, of course, may be ambitious. However, these are great at any parks that attract some of the longest lines. The prime example is Tatsu. Something of that scale may not be seen again, but a larger B&M flyer can offer an excellent headlining attraction to most parks. I don't know if it's the appeal of these rides, the colors, the gimmick, or the ride, but they often have some of the longest waits at any park. Valleyfair could really use one of these rides that gives enthusiasts a reason to travel across the country or world to ride. Besides Renegade, the park doesn't have an appeal to new guests, but Valleyfair is a fantastic park that needs to be visited by more people. So, a ride like this could offer that appeal that Valleyfair is looking for. Also, despite Valleyfair having a few wooden roller coasters, it wouldn't be a terrible idea to add another. Parks like Six Flags Great America have several, and when executed correctly, this can work in the park's favor. A smaller scale gravity group is probably a rare choice, but I think it's perfect in Valleyfair's roller coaster collection. An ejector airtime machine is always welcome in any amusement park, so it wouldn't be a bad option. A flawless option is also a gravity group. They're fun and always some of my favorite coasters. Arguably my favorite wooden roller coaster model, but I'm probably biased as I've only ridden one Intamin prefabricated roller coaster. But I can still stand by the take of another wooden roller coaster in the Valleyfair lineup. Tell me in the comments what coaster model you would add to Valleyfair, and tell me if you agree or disagree with anything I stated. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to check out my ranking of the Valleyfair coasters.